I love the way the First Gen Lounge makes me feel.
Because it creates a space where I belong, where we're able to create community.
The fact that it's a community.
It's a safe place.
It also gives me a place to understand different perspectives.
The stories of these individuals prescribe transformational perspective.
I receive encouragement, enlightenment, empowerment.
And also serve as a catalyst to just keep going.
Where we're able to be our true selves.
I'm allowed to be an unapologetic first gen.
And above all else, tell our story.
And every episode is unique.
I love it.
I'm your host, Dr. Eve, and I'd like to welcome you to the First Gen Lounge.
All right, so before we get into the heart of the show, there are 3 things on my mind that I want to put out there. So I'm going to put it right here to make sure you heard it, okay? So real quick, those 3 things. Number 1, if at any point during this episode you find yourself like, girl, yes, if it just resonates, do me a favor. Share this with at least 3 people who you believe can relate and or find value in the conversation that is being had over here, okay? Number 2, if you have not already, don't forget to go check out the First Gen Shop. It is a first of its kind store created to inspire, empower, and uplift first generation scholars and graduates across the globe. And hear me when I say, we got what you need, okay? So go ahead, come on over, make history with us. And 3rd, be sure to head over and learn more about First Generation University. I invite you to peruse the programs to see if there's anything that may be of benefit to you and or someone that you may know. All the links you're looking for, you can find in the episode notes and the full show notes on the website. All right, so those are the 3 things that I have for you. So now let's get to the show. Hey, welcome back. And if you are new here, what's up with you, boo? So glad to have you. Yes, I am. Okay, I have been wanting to do a show about being Black Greek for years, but I never really got around to it because if I am for real, I hadn't fully grasped how I wanted to approach it. But when I realized that this year's Founders Day actually fell on a Thursday in the year 2022, the 109th year of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I just had to go ahead and make this happen. While there are several angles that I considered, I thought that I would start with the one that focused on how being first generation and a member of a Black Greek letter organization has changed my life. And when I started thinking about all of the possible topics to cover, I realized that this is going to be the kind of talk that probably happens in multiple parts where we have guests, because I think a format with other people will allow for more perspectives, to have a more robust conversation, and to do the topic more justice in what it is. And before I get into it, because I like to get into it, I would be remiss if I did not show love to Benjamin Perez, aka Perez the Advisor. He's someone with whom I actually had my very first conversation with about being first generation and Greek. It was the kind of talk that opened me up to being able to have this one, so I'm really grateful. Go check out Perez the Advisor. He's got a really dope first gen platform, and he also hosts the Latinx Greek Life podcast, so shout out to you. So with all of that said, here we go. So I didn't know anything about Greek life when I went to college. So I didn't step foot on campus looking forward to the day that I would finally become the legacy that would make my mama and or aunties come to tears, right? And for me, how could I become a part of something that I didn't understand? How could I feel a level of enthusiasm about one more than the other when everything was so foreign to me? Like, what did all of it mean, and how was I supposed to know the unspoken rules of the game? So as a first generation college student, the journey to becoming a member of a BGLO was certainly one of a process that required a lot of patience, thought, and research for me. Hindsight, I take great pride in knowing that the decision to pursue membership into Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was because I eventually came to know for myself without a shadow of a doubt that it was the absolute right organization for me. Now, there were a few things that shaped my thoughts and feelings about joining a sorority in the first place. 3 things that I've identified in particular, and I want to run those down for you. The first was that I went to an HBCU, and there was an undeniable presence of Black Greeks on campus. Often, to me, these were the people who were the leaders and the game changers, right? And I was really fascinated by this culture of organizations. I remember the first probate that I'd gone to was actually Delta Gamma Noops. I didn't know what the heck was going on, but I knew that it was something special and it was really cool and they were very excited. And one day they were one thing and the next day it was totally different. So I still wrapping my mind around it, but there was so much love and enthusiasm and excitement and cheer that it was like, oh, this is really cool. Oh, this is why they did that. Oh, so a lot of light bulbs, right? Even more about Greek life. I was intrigued by the stepping and the strolling. That wasn't something that I was familiar with. It was the programs that the Greeks hosted, from oratoricals to pageants, pajama jams in the gym, study halls, etiquette workshops, financial awareness seminars. You name it, they did it all. And a number on the leaders, like I said earlier, on campus were Greek. So a few of them like naturally took me under their wing by association of being an SGA together or being an honors college. There was something that, created a connection for us. And back in the day, we had plots on the yard. I still really hate that those are gone. I really do. It still breaks my heart. But anyway, I remember outside of these being spaces where people, went to go be with their people, right? I remember alumni coming to campus for homecoming and they were swarming to these areas on the yard like bees to honey. And for days, I just watched the joy, the laughter, and the camaraderie of these people being home in the spaces where they belong, but even crossing the yard to show love and give love. It was just an interaction exchange that I just feel like you only really get at HBCU. But it was also, with these plots and just seeing things, this Greek life, it was a sense of ownership and pride and a sacredness that was no doubt there, but it caught my attention. The second thing for me would be my experience with Dr. Kim QB Leathers. She was the Dean of Honors College. She was somebody who was one of my greatest mentors of all time. I've talked about her several times. If you hadn't heard her name on the show by now, I don't know what you're doing. But she was also an Alpha Chapter, AKA, but again, very instrumental in my journey to becoming Greek. She was the one who introduced me to Black fraternal organizations that existed before BGLOs were even a thing. She was the one who taught me about the missions of these Black fraternal orders and how they were really the things that help Black communities to thrive, to be pushed forward. It was also because of her that I was able to understand the historical significance of Black societies, and then the greater emphasis was eventually put on Greek life. As someone who has a thing for history, right? And being a large part of the reason I went to Shaw, I've talked about this, but I continue to feel even more compelled to go in the direction of becoming a part of a BGLO. For me, at some point, it was how could I not be a part of something with such a rich and profound history? And with this HBCU, it's what? So yeah. And I say this as well as something that I've never shared, but I'm just going to go ahead and share it because here we are. It is because of Dr. Leathers that I was able to get this foundational knowledge of BGLOs, and it would be significant for me as a first-generation college student because I could talk to her freely and rid myself of any anxiety of being judged for simply not knowing what I wanted to do. So in the moments I shared with her, I could let go of all the feelings that I may have had in other spaces that I had done something so incredibly wrong because I struggled to understand this concept of Greek life. And even when I was considering, I couldn't make up my mind. She never pushed me one way or another, right? And ironically, it would be her who would end up writing my faculty letter of recommendation when I pursued membership into Delta. I actually remember when I went to her about it, And she told me how excited she was to hear, and that she had a feeling that I was going to go in the direction that she could even see it for me, but I had to see it for myself. And she knew that if I were picked, that Delta would be lucky to have me. You got all that, right? And leave that there. We're going to come back to that conversation one of these days. But you got that. You heard it. I know you heard it. But again, yeah, we're gonna keep it moving. The third thing was probably the thing for me. So an alumnus had reached out to me. Shout out to Autumn, actually. Name of Autumn Bailey. But she had reached out to me because there was a chapter of Delta in the area, Nightdale Wake Forest, KWF, who wanted to bring students to campus for a tour, and it happened to be on the weekend. Mind you, at this time, I was still up in the air about Greek life. I had made a decision, but my homegirl had reached out. I was doing a favor for a friend, so, it is what it is. We're going to make it happen. So she thought, me being involved was part of the reason. I was on campus. I was a student leader. So I'm like, well, okay, I got you. But I was going to bring and do my best for this group, right? I was going to do that because I got to make my homegirl look good. I got to make our campus look good. But I love Shaw, so anybody who comes, I want you to feel the love for Shaw that I felt. So I put together an entire program, a whole program. To my memory, I think I had did like a campus tour. I had one of the modeling troops come out and perform. I invited the current Miss Shaw to come out and to speak and, talk about her love for the institution. And I even had a few campus leaders to come in and talk about their experiences as well. I even think I had some people come in and do poetry, if I am mistaken. So really, your girl wanted to show out for them. But I wasn't showing out for them because I wanted to be a Delta. That's the thing. It was, you coming to my school, I'm going to show you the best. My homegirl, I can't make her look bad, so this has got to be what it is. Great. And I even believe that I reached out to the Office of Admissions and told them what I was going to do. And they even gave me some stuff to give to the students. So that's how serious this was for me. But I love Shaw. I'm passionate about it. And anybody who'd be willing to listen and even commit to coming to Shaw and have an experience like I did, you ought to be here. That's just what it was for me. So in the following semester, KWF had an end of the year banquet, and they had invited me to attend because they were going to recognize me and give me a certificate, like an award, right, for what I had done. And I was thinking, I didn't even think I had done anything, but apparently I had left such an impression that it was worthy of, them inviting me into this banquet. So I thought, really cool. Totally got me by surprise, but I was again super excited about it, and they let me bring a guest. So I ended up taking one of my homegirls, I would say my ace, but she ended up becoming my quad. How ironic, right? But my LS, somebody who I rocked with through so many things, right? So many things. We have so many stories. Tay, shout out to you if you listen to this. But anyway, we got to this banquet. And mind you, even going to this banquet, through the years, I'm still learning about Greek life. I'm still making sense of it. I'm still striving to understand it, right? And some people could say, well, oh, I was wearing red. If you go back to my pictures from 6th grade, I've always been wearing red. I am the lady in red. I've always been. I'm sitting here looking in my office at these pictures I have up from when I was in high school too, and I'm like, red dress, red dress, red dress. So it was never that it was red out of even being disrespectful or trying to send signs about things. It was a natural thing for me to just, this is my color. So even with the whole piece of that, we went to this banquet, and I had never felt the way that I did in this moment. Honey, let me tell you, I was so blown away by this experience. Until that point, I can't recall being in a room packed full of such dynamic women whose mere presence gave me chills and left me speechless. Not just that, it was being in a room, period, packed full of powerful, positive, and educated Black women. It was a sight to see. I had never seen anything like it. It was over 100 of them. You would have thought that I was a kid experiencing the magic of Disney World for the first time. But it was when I left that event that day that I knew that Delta was for me. At the time, Deltas weren't even on the yard, but this experience let me know that I had found my people, and I would be willing to wait for if they had ever come around or do it after graduation, because in my bones it felt so right. I saw myself in these women. I saw who I could be. I saw it all. It was like, oh my goodness, it was a natural fit. It resonated. And then coupled with all the things that I had been learning over the years, Delta was it. Just everything from her history to its members. It was a perfect alignment. Now, I think it was maybe like a year or so later that our campus learned the Deltas were coming back. So for me, it was like, what? You gotta be playing. You gotta be kidding me. Cause I was ready for it. I knew that I wanted it. And I believe there were over 130 young women who attended the interest meeting. There were 22 of us that made line, and I ended up being the oh so fine 9 on the line. I'm the jewel. But I know hindsight that again, it was one of those divine things, like everything just said yes and how it fell into place. And I'm gonna say this too. I still get these very overwhelming feelings of, oh my goodness, when I am surrounded by a group of us. I still feel like I did that day at that banquet. I am mesmerized by members of Delta Sigma Theta. And it has been over a decade. So that's how you know you got the one. Is it just me? I don't think it's just me. No, because I talk to other sorors and I know it's not just me. So getting to the heart of why I wanted to do this particular show, or at least start the conversation about being first gen, in a BGLO, is because of how my experience in Delta has changed my life. And I can only speak from the point of view of being a Delta. And these are my views and my views alone, right? But I think that it's been such an amazing thing. So going back to like pursuing membership in itself, I thought a lot more about what I could do to contribute to the organization, but it never crossed my mind just how much value that being a part of such an illustrious society would bring to my life. It wasn't something that was even there. As a collegiate, thinking about what do I get out of this, that just wasn't something that was there. So it is what it is, right? But to date, I can't begin to count the ways in which Delta has had an impact on my life, how it's truly helped me become a better woman, but an even more empowered Black woman. And I will say this, I think I took for granted some of the experiences as an undergraduate, because also going to an HBCU where it already felt like family and we were taking care of each other, and being first generation was something so common, my experience was normalized. I wasn't worried about race, and I wasn't worried about, just belonging on campus. I think one of the other things for me is I was already friends with so many of my line sisters before we pledged. So it felt like a really large milestone that we'd already reached together, but we had already had this foundation of sisterhood for us. So unlike I think some people in other places who are longing for that community and belonging, I had already had that in so many ways. And then when it came to the part of scholarship, I was in honors college, so I was already nerded out. And for me, scholarship was a standard. Like, don't know if you've heard me share this before, but I went to Shaw on a full academic scholarship. So for me, it was, again, a very natural alignment. I was in a good place, which then I could say that I do think my experience in appreciating my undergraduate experience would have been different if I had gone to a PWI and if I went in honors college. And I'm going to say again, it's not that I did not appreciate it, because, I truly did. I had a very good time with my line sisters. I just know there's uniqueness in the experience, especially having gone to a PWI for grad school, because there was one thing, like at an HBCU, we do this. Like, this is what we do. That's kind of how it felt. So I could say this being looking at it from the lens of being in a place, in a space where I'm isolated, and I'm doing this as a response to that isolation, to that lack of belonging. So I think there's really, again, a difference in approach. And when we think about how BGLOs are showing up, or what they mean to Black students, especially if you look at PWIs and HBCUs, who's going to do that study? Speaking of studies, though, I know that there are actually a few studies that have been done looking at first generation students in Greek life. Of what I was able to find, I did identify 2 dissertations that were just done in 2021 and one from 2020. I will link all 3 of those in the full show notes on the website. So if you want to go check those out, you can. And I also didn't dig into these because I wanted to talk unbiasedly about my experiences, right? However, at a glance, what I did get from them is definitely kind of what I just spoke to as well. Just for students at PWIs, highlighting the sense of belonging for those who did choose to pursue Greek life. Now, I know that BGLOs have had a tremendous impact on the overall well-being, and I'm going to loosely say success, because y'all know how I feel about the word success, right? But of those who are both Black and first generation students and graduates. And one of the things to highlight again is just in a BGLO, I don't have to apologize for my Blackness. Never have and never will. And I think one of the most overlooked aspects of being a part of a BGLO, especially as a first gen, is that we take the commitment for life. And why do I say especially the first gen? Because there's so many elements of being first gen as a student, but then the what happens after college part is where I brought this platform in, several years ago now, 4 years talking about it, because what happens after we graduate and we get into the real world, talking about social capital and community and opportunities and mentorship, right? All of those things come into play. So being that Delta didn't stop for me once I got my degree, in truth, it was post-college when I feel like I really started to get the fullness of Delta, when it really started to hit me being Black Greek, and taking this lifelong commitment. So when I first moved to Mississippi, it was sorors who were the first one to show up on campus, because I reached out, let them know, hey, I'm coming down, I'm moving, I got this job. And my first day there, they were the first people I met, like at the gate. Okay, showed up, they helped me move, even made sure that I was good, I had what I needed. I walked into a community automatically. So even if I didn't know my coworkers well, or I had to navigate that, I already had sisters that had a place for me to be, right? And that was like a mind-blowing thing to realize, as I was working through the reflections as I was putting this together. It was sorors who, I had a student and when their parents, her mom and her aunt came in, they had on their paraphernalia, and I was like, hey, sorors! And eventually it would be those women who would invite me to their home so I wouldn't be alone for Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving in Mississippi. And my student has now become my soror as well. And to be with them and to be in this family and to be a part of this group of women who were Deltas, but my sisters at Thanksgiving was big. And even thinking about the years and watching my then student evolve, and the first day she called me soror, and to have known her from, when she was just a young woman who I ran into in the hallway, to being in her house that same Thanksgiving for, the holiday, to now how we kick it and talk and all the things. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience for me, but all because I was a soror, and they realized that I didn't have anywhere to go for the break, and it wasn't too much to ask to say, or it wasn't too much to just say, period, you come be with us so that you don't be by yourself. We take good care of you. You just show up. You just get here. Okay. It was a soror who invited me to her house one summer when she was having a game night, and it would be there that I would meet the love of my life, Dr. King. So shout out to the soror for the love connection. Now, she wasn't trying to hook us up, but I will say, when he walked in, I looked at her and I was like, girl, and she just looked at me and said, all right, you got it. So she amped me up with that. So, hey, Lene. And one of the women who is now my best friend, she's my best friend, who's actually a Zeta though, right? I met her through a soror. I want to say the same soror if I'm mistaken. So, all the connections, but even getting my footing in Mississippi and finding my way and having, again, my sense of belonging post-college. When I moved, it was major that soror stepped in, and such that I never had to be alone, because I moved to Mississippi and I didn't know anybody when I moved there. I had never been there outside of the one time that I went down to visit for my interview. So this was completely new territory for me, but sorors looked out. And as a scholar, graduate school comes to mind first, because again, I moved again, now 10 hours away from home. I went down to Hattiesburg to go to school, and I didn't know a single person there either. So again, here I was in a new space, but yet I was not without community again. So on the first day of my assistantship, it was actually sorors who came through to connect with me on campus, and they were like, hey, we heard you with the new GA, looking forward to, getting to know you. We just showed so much love, and if you need anything, we're here are our numbers. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. This is sisterhood amplified, but in a way that I was told once upon a time ago that sisterhood, we are committed to this. And it was showing itself to me in a way that these were people who were strangers, but what connected us was the bond, and it wasn't too much for them to be there for me. So it was sorors who, as other grad students, PhD students, master students, right? Because we went through all the things together. But the ones who were getting together, before class to get a quick dinner and to kind of catch up and talk about the readings, or just catch up on life or what was going on, what was happening, and over spring break or just weekends, sometimes getting together to have potlucks just to decompress and just feel support and to talk and to laugh. Like for me, it was sorors who showed up in a way that I was kind of like, again, I'm just so grateful. It was being able to get a textbook real quick if I didn't have it, because I couldn't probably pay for it at the time, or just couldn't find it, or just was in one of those spaces like I had what I needed. It was having people who could look at papers and give me honest feedback. Because sometimes I'd be like, now, sorry, now all you can do was laugh, be like, yeah, okay, shame. But to get you together and to love you and to have folks to meet with at the library to do hours of research, it was having a community of individuals that didn't mind taking me to the airport and picking me up when the airport was over an hour and a half away, and to do that without expectation. And there was one moment where my car had broke down, and we're not even gonna get on public transportation where I was because damn near non-existent, okay? But among the people who helped me get to and from class and work for a couple of weeks was sorors. So again, just feeling so indebted, but so full, and so, again, just moved by how sorors, again, as a first gen, I'm out here at school. In my assistantship, I was making $800 a month, and rent was $500, $300 for everything else. So utilities and food. So you do the math, right? To have the help that I needed, in ways that I probably always didn't understand that I needed it, but it was there. We had each other. So even thinking about being a professional, while there have been many spaces that I've been in, and I've been the minority, I still had a large group of Black women who were accessible to me for guidance, wisdom, and support. Even more, it was being able to connect directly with sorors in higher education and build communities outside of my workplace where I could get and share resources, and I would have a safe space to grow. And one where they'd even say to you, sis, that ain't it, get out. But as much as they would tell you to get out, and do something different, or you need to go on about your way, it would be sharing job opportunities and helping you prepare for interviews and reviewing resumes and CVs and sharing rooms at conferences where you just met for the first time. Hey, I'm going to this conference, trying to save on a room, who trying to get together. Like, that was something to be said, but to even have this trust in this environment. And I say large group because the large group of women wasn't on campus, but there was a large group of us that we met at conferences and in social media groups, and it was just, I got you. Yes, you can pick up the phone and call me and talk, and we're gonna talk through this, and you're okay and you're safe, and I got you. And so that was a tremendous feeling for me. And as an entrepreneur, I can say that in almost everything I've ever done, in some way, a soror has been connected. It was a soror who was the first person to purchase my first book. It was because of a connection to sorors that I had my first magazine feature and ended up on a top 20 list to watch. It was a soror who helped me get my first major speaking engagement. And I was really blown away because with my school, First Generation University, which back then was the 9 Lab, I ended up looking one day at the group itself, and at one point, over 80% of those who were enrolled were Deltas. And I was like, this is like a soror, business group that unofficially we don't know about, but they were all first generation, right? All Deltas, and connected, and it just worked out. And beyond the Deltas, at one point though, more than 90% of the students in general were Black Greeks. So we'll come back to that general Black Greek thing, because that's very significant too. And I know that we'll likely have a conversation in addition to in the more fullness of Black Greekness, because I'm being biased today about Delta. We just go ahead and take that, okay? So, but even in being in my sorority, one of our programmatic thrusts is economic development. So historically, being in higher education, I've long served on educational development committees. However, I've been able to still find a space within my sorority to continue to serve. So I'm taking this ever-growing love for entrepreneurship and still able to give back in a way that is truly meaningful. So here's where I also say that I may talk about the no, you can't pick my brains, right? I've said that before, but it doesn't mean I'm not giving and helping my community. And everything that I do to uplift any community and to give back comes directly from Evangeline Worldwide, as much as it's aligning myself and still being committed to the service of Delta and serving with my sisters. So that's something I think is worth noting, just while we're here, because me and who I am individually in business is one thing, but it doesn't mean I'm not still showing up in meaningful ways to help my communities, the Black community, right? Especially in other ways. It's finding the balance, but Delta gives me an avenue to serve and to be selfless in how I serve, but serving in a way that makes sense for me, or at least just one way that makes sense for me. And I noticed, again, I talked about the Black Greek thing, and I do want to touch on it real quick, because being a Delta, of course, and a Black Greek, it has created opportunities for me to connect with other really dynamic and dope Black Greeks, period. There is this understanding when it comes to being Black Greek, like no matter the organization, or if you went to an HBCU or PWI, that in my opinion, when we're out here in the world, we do a pretty good job at looking out for each other. And I do want to further explore that, because even in the sense of Black Greekness and what being a Delta, being in my community of Delta has done for me, it's so expensive to think about how Black Greeks, it's kind of like, y'all ever hear about like people on the street, Black people on the street, you see each other and give each other the nod kind of thing. It feels like that with Black Greeks in general in several spaces. And it's not so much like, oh, well, you're an AKA, or you're Delta. Oh, okay. It's kind of like, if we the 2-3 Black people in the room and we all realize we Greek too, it's love, it's love, it's love. So I'm gonna put it there. And even thinking about the people in my life who've been mentors to me, that have been mentors from all kinds of backgrounds, because my first boss, supervisor, when in grad school was an AKA. My dean of students was an Alpha. When I left, one of my ace boom coons, compadres, and supervisors then was a Zeta. So I've had the pleasure of working with people from many backgrounds, because foundationally, as Black Greek-led organizations, something that is consistent is scholarship being at the forefront, brotherhood and or sisterhood and service. That's what we share in common, although our missions and ways are different. But again, a conversation for another day. Now, back to Delta. In life, period, though, one of the things that being a part of a BGLO has really helped me with, again, personally, professionally, but it's really having sisters who are going to just have my back. People who are going to celebrate life's milestones and cry when it gets to be tough. One of my line sisters, my 11, actually transitioned in 2021. And there was literally no one else in the world who understood that kind of pain but my line sisters. So being able to lean in and turn to them in a moment of grief that you really can't explain to anybody else is truly something that deepens the bond, but it also, again, continues to make you understand just how special this particular thing is. But not to stay in sadness, because I still get really moved by that. It hadn't even been a year. But it's been able to call on more experienced sorors, right? Big sisters who've had life things to happen for which they can give you really sound advice for really anything. Ones who can give you realness, like tell you how it is. You be like, dang, she just said that to me. She did. But to know that it comes from a place of love, and they tell you, well, put your big girl panties on and be okay, give me a hug, right? That's significant, because in thinking about models and role models and mentors, to have that is really special. It's being able to also take what you learn and to take all that wisdom and things that you're getting along the way, and then to go back and to pull your younger sisters along, to give them and be for them what you've needed to. And in my experiences, there have been so many young women with whom I've connected that are first generation, and in coming into the fold of Delta, and to be able to see myself and understand it even differently of what it means. Like, yes, sis, you made it. You got up in here. And again, wanted to have a different conversation with a group of us about navigating the space of pursuing membership into sororities and fraternities as a first gen. Just think again, it'll just be better had with more of us. But even in all that, and while you're here though, for me, it's kind of felt like for years, and now you're safe, and now you're good, and now we got you. You got to put in the work though. And when I say put in the work, it's not so much of that it's a demanding kind of thing, but putting in the work means even if I put these opportunities before you, you got to show up. You gotta play your part. You got to do what you got to do, because I may be able to lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink kind of thing. So, but all love. And it's a beautiful thing, because it's a consistent, to me, constant thing of reaching as you climb. So each time I move up and reach back to help somebody else, she reaches back to help somebody else too. And that is a beautiful thing to see. And one thing that even comes to mind is it was really hitting me that day that I left North Carolina to go to Mississippi. Just really hit me. I can go almost anywhere in the world and have a soror there. Like, as of this moment, one of my line sisters actually lives in Japan, and one of my first international students in first generation university was somebody who was from Virginia but living in Abu Dhabi. But outside of that, we've got chapters internationally. So there's something truly special about just this idea. There are over 300,000 women who have come through this organization, who have pledged to it, and I can literally go almost anywhere in the world, and there's somebody with whom I share a very special connection. And as a first gen, going back to thinking about significance, connection and community is something that we talk about lacking. And there can be alumni everywhere, right, of an institution who are doing things, but there's something about being, in my opinion, Black Greek, because of that bond, because of this commitment to that sisterhood that speaks differently than maybe even just merely being an alum. That's where I'm at with it. And that's what I'm gonna say with it, okay? So I said a lot. I've said a whole lot, and it's just goodness gracious to me, because putting the show together really helped me actualize how significant being a part of a sorority has been for me, but more specifically being a part of a BGLO, because as a first generation college student and now graduate, my sorority has kept me. It's really kept me. It's made me realize, just this all in what it is, that for all the things in my life that I may have felt at one point were missing and valid in having felt so, that becoming a part of a BGLO has really offered many solutions to me, or at least it's helped me find a way to a solution. Like, I may not have been able to call home with college and grad school related issues. We talked about earlier, being in grad school and getting to the airport and, books and community and all this stuff, right? Navigating professionally, figuring out things as an entrepreneur. But I've always had the community that I've needed to help me through it all. And it's taken looking back to say, dang, you've been good this whole time. And this has been one of the primaries that you have been good, because I've been able to lean on my sisters, and my sisters aren't the only people that have been involved. I'm gonna give people credit's due, but this ain't that show. But I am saying that my sisters have been playing a significant role in filling in the gaps all along. The gaps that I didn't even know needed to be filled, and that I never looked at from a theoretical perspective or per research. Is just from what I've been through and looking at where I am now. My sister's been holding me down. And now in my life, and again, I know the timing with everything is right. It's a reason it took me years to do this particular episode, because I now see that I've always had, because of my Greek affiliation, being a Delta, being Black Greek, that I've always had access to what and who I've needed. There is a little bit of everybody doing everything in Delta, and then when you move outside of Delta, other organizations, but I can always start at home for, again, the mentorship, the guidance, the professional development, the business community. I can look here first and know that I'm good, and can and will be supported. I just gotta find, and who I need within it, but to even be able to ask at all, to say, hey, Sora, I'm stuck with this. Do you have somebody who can help with this? Do you know what I can do? And to be like, well, Sora, let's do this. And to do it from a place of love and understanding. Goodness. You can tell I'm getting my feelings again. Yes, I am. So again, I didn't realize it then, but I fully realize it now. And I'm gonna say, for lack of better word, shame on me though, for all the times that I may not have asked for the help that I may have needed in situations, because the community has been there and the sorority is committed to the uplift of people and to service. But the service isn't limited to what we do in the community general. It's what we do even within our community that really stuns me and really leaves me still like I was that day at that banquet, feeling speechless because of how powerful and impactful navigating this journey and doing so with Delta, right? It's mind-blowing. And mind-blowing now because I think about the fact that although I am first generation, I still have access as this collegiate graduate. I still have access to who and what I need for all the days ahead. Again, I just got to fix my mouth to ask. But in this fold, it's with these hands that I am here to uplift you, and I'm here to support you, and to know that there are people who stand by that. Mississippi showed me that. Mississippi showed me that in a way that I was not expecting, right? But I just asked and they showed up, and the rest has been history. My line sisters show me that. My big sister showed me that. I'm just shown that over and over again in all the ways, and it's to never be doubted. So yes, I am in my feelings right now because it has been beautiful. And so I say many of these things because what I understand as a result of all of how I know being Black Greek has changed my life in ways that I'm sure I haven't even explored in this, because community was very at the forefront of the theme of what I kept coming to as I was preparing for this. So it just lets me know and leads me to want to say it is critical for us as first generation college students and graduates to find a solid community. It doesn't have to be a fraternity or sorority. I felt like I was divinely led to it, and it was the thing that worked for me. But you got to find a community. As a matter of fact, I'll even say it may be necessary for you to become a part of more than one community to get what you need in the different areas for what you need it. Even now, while Delta is very accessible to me, and while other Black Greeks are very accessible to me, and while, I didn't even tell you this, but my grandparents ordered the Eastern Star and a Mason, right? So fraternal orders have been present in my life. I understood that, but community, it matters, right? It really, really matters. So you got to find what you need. And for me, while again, Delta is just one of the communities for which I exist and has been obviously impactful in my life, there are other communities for which I've been a part of for different things. And that has, in my opinion, been one of the more significant things that's made the difference is community. And I'm not gonna say this too. I laugh because it's kind of like, we're just gonna go there. It may not always be that you have free access to those communities. And no, you ain't paying for friends. Let me say, because I ain't paying for no friends. I've gotten friends as a result of joining the community, right? But I'm not getting into it because I didn't get into Delta just thinking about, I knew the sisterhood element, but the sisterhood element has spoken to me through the years. It was a scholarship, it was the sisterhood, it was a service, it was the being a part of something greater. And the sisterhood is unmatched. It has shown itself to me. But I had to, pay my dues, but I pay my dues so my organization can run, not because I'm paying to have friends. Let me make that real clear. For anybody who's ever said or thought that. I mean, you can think what you think, but it ain't about paying for friends, because even when you think about entrepreneurship or even any personal development thing that you may pursue, it's about gaining access to said thing. It's about it goes to the organization so that it can run and operate. And while I have membership comes with its privileges. I'm gonna leave it at that too. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that too. But either way, what I am saying is, don't feel like you can't, wouldn't, and shouldn't invest for the seat at the table that you may need. Because again, outside of fraternities and sororities, there are many business communities and professional communities for which dues are required. And in so many ways, I would even challenge, in saying that what's the difference between paying dues for those things to be a part of it and it is to pay for a fraternity or sorority. So, all right, I'm be quiet. Anyway, I'm feeling so full, which I know that you know at this point. And I am just reminded in this moment how things really just work themselves out, and how often so divinely things work themselves out, because I just really did not know. I can't tell you in truth that back in 2008 that I really understood the magnitude of what being a part of a BGLO would mean for me. Not just as a college student, but even particularly as I've been navigating adulthood. But it's been tremendous, and I am, again, just incredibly grateful and full, and continuously in awe. And I look forward to continuing the conversation about being first generation and BGLO extensively, or not extensively, but to having it from, again, the different perspectives of others who are first generation and Black Greek, because I'm sure there are so many things that I haven't unpacked that I will and can unpack through said conversations. But on that note, I really I'm just so grateful, and I want to give a very special shout out to a few chapters. I ain't trying to get beat up, sorry, trying to get beat up, but I gotta do this because there have been in some ways connections that are special. So I'm just gonna just tell them, just say, to the greatest chapter, the almighty Alpha Row chapter, where your ducks are literally in a row chapter. Doing too much? Just let me have it. Let me have it. But to the home team, you already know what's up. So much love. Gamma Rho, Iota Rho, Alpha Lambda, Omicron Epsilon, Mu Omicron, Theta Pi, Kappa Omicron, Kappa Sigma, Mu, Nu, Sigma Xi, Hattiesburg alumni, Clinton, Mississippi alumni, Jackson alumni, Knightdale, Wake Forest alumni, Charlotte alumni, Johnson County alumni, Western Wake alumni, and the Raleigh alumni chapters. I thank you, and I thank you. I thank all of you for the roles that you played in my life, for the communities that you have created, that have kept me, that have welcomed me, that have loved me, that have supported me, that have seen me, that have just been a part of this journey of mine, and in many ways that I just can't fully express with words, have been tremendous for me. I want to thank you, all of you, so very much. Just goodness. But on that note, I will say that there is none greater than Delta Sigma Theta. Keep pressing forward.